WUSF's General Manager JoAnn Urofsky retires next month after leading the station for 23 years. I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters, live and local, we'll sit down with JoAnn to talk about the changes she's seen in public media and what's next. Ben, the circus has a long history in Tampa Bay, so why did John Ringling move his circus to Sarasota all those years ago? You'll also meet performers from two modern-day circuses. What is it they do that keeps people coming back to the big top when instant online entertainment demands our attention? And if you've got fond memories of the circus, tell us what you love about it. And if you're flying over the holidays, what can you pack in your luggage? If you've got questions about what TSA is going to pull out of your carry-on and what they'll wave through, call and let's talk. 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. First, these headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Obamacare-related health costs are topic A in the U.S. Senate today as the deadline approaches for a decision on what's next. Democrats want to extend so-called enhanced premium subsidies, and Republicans are divided. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin has more.
24 million people enrolled in Obamacare this year, mostly small business owners and workers, farmers, ranchers. Nearly all of them got enhanced subsidies to help with monthly premium costs. Now those enhanced subsidies are expiring and costs are going up dramatically. Ellen Allen's premium costs are quadrupling. She's 64, lives in West Virginia, and has pre-existing conditions.
The bronze plan without vision and dental with a monthly premium of $1,967.50.
Senate Democrats' bill would put those enhanced subsidies back for 3 years. The Republican bill would put money in health savings accounts, but would not bring down the higher premium costs. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News, Washington.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky holds urgent talks today with leaders from about 30 countries. It's the latest gathering of a so-called coalition of the willing, led by Britain, France, and Germany. NPR's Lauren Freya reports today's meeting is being held by video conference.
Zelensky has been traveling around Europe, meeting allies this week, as revisions to a U.S.-backed peace plan are sent back and forth across the Atlantic to the White House. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz says the main issue to be resolved is what territories and concessions Ukraine is prepared to make. He said he and his French and British counterparts suggested finalizing proposals with President Trump in Europe this weekend. Trump told reporters he's waiting to hear answers before progressing.
There are a lot of things happening right now. A lot of people say it's closer than it's ever been.
A critical moment is how European leaders describe it. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, London.
The nation's trade deficit narrowed in September. NPR's Scott Horsley reports on the latest figures from the Commerce Department.
The U.S. trade gap narrowed by almost 11% during September. Exports and imports both increased during the month, but exports jumped more. New applications for unemployment benefits rose sharply last week after a Thanksgiving lull the week before. 236,000 people applied for jobless aid. The number of applications can be useful in assessing the pace of layoffs. Stock in Oracle tumbled after the cloud computing giant reported disappointing earnings. Oracle's been investing heavily in artificial intelligence. Despite the dip, co-founder Larry Ellison is still a very wealthy man. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
On Wall Street, a day after the Fed lowered interest rates by a quarter percentage point, the Dow is up 559, the Nasdaq off 227 points, the S&P 500 down 18. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Made in Cookware. Made in Cookware is crafted by chefs for chefs and designed for restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Florida Republicans have been dominating in Florida recently, but WUSF's Douglas Soul explains why Democrats are hopeful this could change.
Florida Republicans outnumber Florida Democrats by nearly 1.5 million voters. They also raise a lot more money, but Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried thinks her side has momentum.
Democrats are ready to fight for our state, build a coalition of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and that is how we're going to take back our state. City by city, brick by brick, voter by voter.
She's excited a Democrat won this week's Miami mayor's race. Other elections have her optimistic too. A Democrat won a Palm Beach County, Florida House seat, as predicted on Tuesday, but by a huge margin. Freed says Floridians are unhappy with federal and state GOP policies and affordability issues. State Republican Party leadership is still projecting confidence, and says Miami is Democrat-leaning anyway. Douglas Soul, WUSF, 89.7 News.
Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier is suing Starbucks over hiring and promotion policies he claims are racial quotas. Speaking Wednesday on X, Uthmeier said Starbucks weaponized diversity, equity, and inclusion policies to impose racial quotas.
The coffee empire set numerical racial targets for their workforce, and they tied executive bonuses to those targets. That is brazen discrimination, and it is against the law.
Uthmeier's office is looking for current or former Starbucks employees who believe they have faced discrimination. Something you might want to think about if you're doing your Christmas shopping. Tickets go on sale today for the headline concerts at next year's Florida Strawberry Festival. Prices vary here, but you can get grandstand seats for some of these shows for as low as $30. The acts cover a pretty wide range from orchestras to country, Christian to contemporary music. You can find more details and a link to buy tickets at WUSF.org. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
The Tony Award-winning musical about the survival of the human spirit, Les Miserables, is now playing at Straz Center through December 14th. Show details and tickets at strazcenter.org.
Wake Up Call from WUSF delivers the latest local news to you first thing Monday through Friday. Our newsletter keeps you connected to community, news, culture, national NPR headlines, and more. Sign up for your Wake Up Call at WUSF.org.
This is Florida Matters, live and local, broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, for more than 3 decades now, JoAnn Urofsky has led WUSF, first as station manager, then as general manager. Next month, she's retiring. This is an inflection point for public media across the country, which lost all federal funding this year. So we thought it was a good idea to invite Urofsky to sit down and talk about the changes she's overseen at WUSF and the changing landscape of media. JoAnn, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Matthew. It's a pleasure.
Now, you've been with WUSF since the Clinton era, but you got your start as a DJ in country music. So tell us about that.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I was still in college when I got the job. And, I thought majoring in communications with an emphasis in radio and TV meant you kind of worked in radio and TV. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize people were going to law school after that. And I just didn't. I stayed in radio. But, the beauty of being at a country music station is you get to sing along with all the songs.
Yeah, what
and they
were
were
you
terrific.
Spinning?
Oh, gosh. There was Dolly Parton.
Uh-huh.
I think that was when Jolene came out. There was a Merle Haggard song, something about free bubble up and moon pie, something like that. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And so this was, you went to college in Pennsylvania, right?
Right, Penn State.
Yeah. Okay, so when did public media catch your attention? Like, when was the point you're like, okay, this is something I want to pursue?
So when I was working as a DJ, radio stations were actually owned by regular people, not corporations. And I was working at one station, and I was the morning DJ. And it was a middle-of-the-road station, name your favorite celebrity and 1,001 strings kind of music. And
so this was a couple of years after the country music stint?
Right. But they needed somebody to work overnight because the person overnight was going to be out on maternity leave. And so why not take the morning DJ and put them overnight? Because it didn't really, it was fungible to the owners. So the woman who was training me, we were talking about what I wanted to do. And she said, well, you ought to meet my husband. He runs the public radio station.
And where was this? This is still in Pennsylvania?
In Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay.
And so I said, sure, that sounds great. I didn't know what public radio was. So I started listening and really started to love it and learned so much. And it was a mixed format station. So there was morning edition and classical music and jazz and really everything you could possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. And they needed a board operator, so I got a part-time job as a board operator and kind of worked my way in and became one of the classical music announcers.
Wow, okay, so you were kind of behind the scenes in front of the mic. You really had your hands in radio from the get-go.
Yeah.
But you weren't one of those people who grew up listening to public media, though.
Not to public media, no. My mother had the radio on all the time. So I knew all the big names of the big radio station she listened to in Philadelphia, where I grew up. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool, but I never thought about it for a job.
Yeah. So when you come to WUSF, this was it's sort of late 90s, early 2000s. It included a PBS affiliate. The radio station split its clock with news, classical, and jazz. And long-time listeners might remember the banter between late morning edition host Carson Cooper and classical host Russell Gant during the daily shift change. What was the environment like then? Like a much smaller staff, a kind of a different vibe to the place?
It was a very different vibe. We had a newsroom staff of about 5, and we were also a mixed format station. So after morning edition, we listened to classical music. And people got used to that format. You know, at commercial radio stations, it's one format all the time. And that consistency basically helps gain more listeners and therefore more ads. We have never been driven by the ad format, although we have corporate sponsors. So it seemed natural to us to have this mixed format idea. And then that concept kind of fell out of favor because what we knew we needed to do was serve more of the audience.
Right. And the audience was saying, we want more news?
The audience was saying they wanted more news, and the classical music folks wanted more classical music. So stations across the country were starting to become single format and acquire other stations so they could have their news format and their music format.
Right, and so that's why in 2010, I should say, classical got its own 24-hour station, WSMR.
Right.
So let me ask more about music, because WSF was for a long time the place people turned to for jazz, right? All Night Jazz had been on the air for 50 years. In 2023, it moved off the radio and onto digital. I mean, some jazz fans obviously weren't too happy about that. Is that decision something that keeps you up at night, JoAnn?
Oh, no. I think we did absolutely the right thing. And to give you a little context, when I was working in West Virginia at the public radio station, there was a time when there were severe budget cuts. And our general manager said to me, you know, I can keep you, but I need you to work overnight. Can you do that? Well, yeah, I wanted a job. So I was working overnight. And overnight we had classical music, then we segued to jazz. And so I started kind of working in a little more jazz overnight and really fell in love with jazz, became the jazz director at that station, moved to Syracuse, New York to a jazz radio station, jazz public radio station. So coming here, I was thrilled that we had jazz on the air. But as times changed and listening changed and listening patterns changed, we knew that it was time to change WUSF. We made that change and dropped jazz from the radio format when the war in Ukraine started, because what we knew we needed was to be able to have a format on where people could learn about what was happening in the war, and if other countries became involved in war themselves, because it was very unpredictable then. And look at the state of the world today, very volatile in many, many places. We want to make sure that we are doing news 24 hours a day and capable of covering what's happening at the drop of a hat. And BBC News Overnight will do that for us.
Speaking of volatility, I mean, there is a lot of change and volatility in media in general and in public media. Now, you've served on the boards of PBS and NPR, so that gives you a unique perspective on local and national public media. And we mentioned the funding cuts that came down a few months ago. How did it affect WS financially, and what is it going to take to sustain the station moving forward?
So WUSF and WSMR, because so many of our staff really are working at both stations, lost $800,000. And that's not just $800,000 once, it's every single year. And that's a big hole to fill. We started a resilience fund where people can make contributions to literally sustain the station through hard times. That would be a fund that the general manager, presumably the one after me, would take advantage of in case something happened unpredictable. And I think what happened in addition to the funding, we lost the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which was a unifying organization for all public radio and television stations.
Is that kind of the death knell for public media, do you think, in some ways?
Some people have talked about things like that. I don't think it is. I think there are stations that will suffer greatly. I think there are stations that will really dive into the kind of collaborations that really are possible for saving money. So many stations are so different, though. It's a lot easier for a university station licensee like WUSF and WSMR to collaborate with another university licensee, right?
Okay, so as far as the future goes, I mean, WUSF has changed a lot. As you mentioned, I mean, we're on the radio, we're streamed, we're on YouTube. It's a much bigger newsroom now as well. We've doubled the number of journalists here. Our work is pretty active on all those platforms. I mean, this show that we're talking on right now is a good example of that, Florida Matters Live and Local. What role do you think public media is going to have in the future of news?
I think public radio is really important for the future of news. I think we're doing things that are so collaborative in the state of Florida, especially, with a focus on people that are new to Florida, who have moved from somewhere else.
And they're moving here all the time.
Absolutely. And don't necessarily know how do laws get passed in Florida? It's very different here from other states. I mean, every state is its own unique place, right? So we want people to be able to feel comfortable and in their own community here in Florida. And that's why we have the Your Florida reporting initiative, as well as so much else that we do, all of the environmental coverage, of course, and education, things
Politics.
like that are changing so that people know what's going on. And with this show, Florida Matters Live and Local, the opportunity to be able to call in and express their opinion and ask questions.
Yeah. Now, you're going to have a bit more time on your hands in a few weeks. It's probably a bit of an understatement, but I've heard that you do have a few other arrows in your quiver, so to speak. You're a keen canoer. Or you were?
I have been.
Are you going to be out on the water once you hang up the headphones?
I have to say, my husband and I moved a couple of years ago, didn't have a place to put our kayaks, but the idea of getting back in a kayak is very appealing to me. Last year at this time, I went with Steve Newborn and some other staff members.
He knows his way around the waterways.
He does. We were kayaking on the Hillsborough River, and it was fabulous, so beautiful. Florida is just a beautiful state, so there's lots to explore here.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you're going to still kind of keep your ear at least on radio or some kind of hand in public media going forward?
I will definitely be listening. I'm not sure what's coming next, right? I think the best thing will be not having to wake up to the alarm clock and be somewhere every single day. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a little bit of a break.
Are you an early riser?
I am. I'm usually up around 5 in the morning
so
and ready to go.
You're going to be listening to Craig Kopp, whatever, anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. JoAnn Urofsky, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
JoAnn is WSF's general manager, a post she's held since 2002. She's retiring next month. Coming up next, the circus has a long history in Tampa Bay. We'll talk about John Ringling's legacy in Sarasota. That's when Florida Matters Live and Local continues. Stay with us.
Sarasota Opera presents its 2026 Winter Opera Festival featuring Puccini's La Bohème, Floyd's Susanna, and more. These performances run February 14th through March 29th. Tickets at sarasotaopera.org.
I'm Robin Young. As Dick Van Dyke turns 100, his 99-year-old bestie Mel Brooks talks about their friendship, including those monthly lunches at Norman Lear's.
And we had sandwiches, egg salad, sandwiches, without crusts. Dick would always pop up and say, "I got a crust here."
Mel Brooks on Dick Van Dyke, next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
You tune in to WUSF for all your favorite NPR shows. And for a list of when you can hear them, visit WUSF.org. WUSF is your spot for local, on air and online.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, if you take a stroll around St. Armand's Circle in Sarasota, you'll see plaques immortalizing circus greats like P.T. Barnum and the Ringling Brothers, along with acrobats and other circus artists. The circus's roots in Sarasota go back nearly 100 years, even earning it the name Circus Capital of the World. Ringling Brothers Circus started wintering there in 1927. Today, its legacy lives on through organisations like the Circus Arts Conservatory and its professional troupe Circus Sarasota. And as many of you know, there's a place where you can spend hours immersed in the world of circus history. Here to tell us more is Jennifer Lemmer-Posey, Tibble's Curator of Circus at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. Jennifer, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
So, almost 100 years of history of the circus in Tampa Bay. When did the circus set down roots in Sarasota, and why was this the place?
Well, the circus, and when I say this at the moment, it is Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Ringling Brothers came to Sarasota in 1927 to make it its winter quarters. It was brought there by John Ringling, who was the last of the five brothers who founded Ringling Brothers Circus. And he had set his own roots in Sarasota, really investing in real estate and building up that small town, working towards the city that it is today. And John recognized a couple of things. One, that bringing the circus winter quarters to Sarasota was going to be an opportunity to add to the community, to add a tourist attraction, an early Florida tourist attraction, and also, frankly, to move his show from winter quarters in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where one is not going to get quite as much done in the winter months as you can in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, it's probably not that balmy up in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
No, not quite as lovely as it is here.
Is that where the Ringling family was from originally?
No, to get into the weeds of it, the Ringling family and the Ringling Circus started in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And then when the brothers even colder, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know, Bridgeport. They went cold to cold, right?
Yeah, right.
When they merged with the Barnum and Bailey show in 1919, they moved the winter quarters of Ringling Brothers from Wisconsin over to Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was John, having spent time, having invested in the property there in Sarasota, who said, let's bring it south. And it's called Sarasota one of its homes ever since, even though the winter quarters itself has not existed as a physical property for quite a long time now. The community is still such a strong part of Sarasota.
Because presumably the circus wasn't actually touring in the wintertime, right?
Right. The tented circuses basically came off the road around November of each year and wouldn't go back until late March, April, where they started in New York in buildings. And so for that span of time, the idea was that shows were generally retooling themselves in quarters. A lot of times performers were out on winter tours abroad, but with the advent of winter quarters in Sarasota, it became one place where the families could stay there and still be performing.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Jennifer Lemmer-Posey. She's the Tibble's Curator of Circus at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. So, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus ran for 146 years. It's kind of incredible when you think about the length of time, how culture had changed in that time. But it closed in 2017, and then it returned in 2023 in a slightly different form. But what was that original traveling circus like? It was kind of like, from what I've read and seen sort of footage of, it's sort of like a city on rail, right? And lots and lots and lots of animals.
Absolutely. So we call it the Canvas City, and what I'm going to describe now, the circus obviously kept evolving. It starts in America as a one-ring enterprise, but by the time the Ringling Brothers are involved in it, P.T. Barnum and partners have grown what the American circus is, traveling under canvas with 3 rings, 100 railroad cars to carry all of the equipment and the people and the animals.
Okay, just for a moment, when you say you're talking about the rings, like a 1-ring circus or a 3-ring circus, what exactly is that?
Okay, the ring is the performance area for a circus, and it's kind of what defines the circus for us as an enterprise separate from a different type of theater or performance. So the idea is that there is a ring that's marcated out by by wooden blocks now. It used to just be mounds of dirt that was defined by the needs of a galloping horse. So that ring originally starts so that equestrians can do somersaults on the backs of horses because there's enough centrifugal force.
That's interesting. And it's a performance where the audience can see you from every single side too, which is different.
Exactly. You can be seen from all sides. You can accommodate seating all the way around, which for the business model is very good. For our experiences as audience in circus, it also means you watch the performance, but you watch others watching. So it's a shared experience.
Mm-hmm. And you could have like 2 or 3 rings inside the same tent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those tents themselves are enormous things, right?
Gigantic things. The Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey tent of the early 20th century could seat up to 13,000 people for one show.
Wow.
So gigantic. Now, in that era, while they had some electric lighting, it was, fairly dim. So if you were sitting at a far end and, next to what was called Ring 1 or Ring 3, you probably really were just seeing the acts on that end, and you wouldn't necessarily even know what had happened at the other side of the tent.
Yeah. How do they keep those things up in storms?
Well, part of it's just the structure of the canvas tents, that they were, thoroughly sewn, really heavy materials, and then they were guyed out, and the poles, there was a set of center poles, and then mid poles and side poles, and just carefully constructed, which all is to say, like, they were as safe as they could be, but there were still blowdowns from time to time.
Mm. Now, the Ringling family, obviously anybody who's spent a bit of time in Sarasota, or even if you haven't, you know the name. People may have seen the mansion. They'll be familiar with the art college and museum. So they must have been pretty wealthy. What does that tell you about the popularity of the traveling circus in the early part of the 20th century?
Yeah, well, it is exactly that circus was a great business. If you were lucky, I mean, there's a degree of luck and a degree of skill in making circus happen. And the Ringling Brothers, because the 5 brothers who worked together on the circus brought various skills to the work, really were able to be successful because they were savvy about dividing up responsibility. For a lot of people who have a great deal of heart, it's still hard to make a go of circus because you have to keep an eye on the people and the talent, keep the animals well, keep the logistics going, be out ahead of advertising, because in this era of the tented circus, they're moving every single day. So it's so much work and so much logistical intelligence. It's an amazing feat.
It's amazing to me too that it kept going so long, even after the advent of television. I mean, even into the the 2000s, the 2010s, when people are kind of like glued to their phones, right?
Right. I come back to a few things. One is that circus encompasses so many different kinds of talents that it's something for everyone. So families love to go to the circus together. But also coming back again to that shared experience, which I think in the 21st century we are even more aware of because of the isolation that we experience so much entertainment through screens, and that's a solitary way of doing it. Mm-hmm. So the circus gives us a chance to be with others.
Yeah, real quick, I know there was a clown college here for a bit, which closed down, I think, in the late 90s. But is there still a way people can learn about circus arts here in Tampa Bay?
Oh, absolutely. There are many ways. In Sarasota, we have the Circus Arts Conservatory, which has a youth circus program, but also offers adult classes here and there. And there are a number of other circus performers who offer classes on their own in clowning and acrobatics and many other ways. So it's still very vibrant here in the area.
Well, Jennifer Lemmer-Posey, Tibble's curator of circus at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. Do stay with us. We're going to talk more about circuses next. And we also are going to talk with a modern-day circus artist. And I want to hear from you too. If you've got fond memories of the circus from when you were a kid, maybe an adult as well, give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. More to come on Florida Matters Live and Local. Stay with us.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Tampa General Hospital, the region's only academic health system. Together with USF Health Morsani College of Medicine, TGH delivers groundbreaking innovation and life-saving care. For more information, visit tgh.org. Van Wezel presents Salute to Vienna New Year's Concert. Celebrate 30 years with the full symphony orchestra, European singers, costume dancers, and international ballroom dancers. Tuesday, December 30th at 7 p.m. Tickets at vanwezel.org.
On the next Fresh Air, we hear from longtime sports journalist Sam Smith and Phil Jackson, who coached the Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers to 11 NBA championships. Their new book, Masters of the Game, shares untold stories and hard-won lessons from some of the greatest players in basketball. Join us.
Great conversation on Fresh Air tonight at 7 on WUSF.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Next year, the circus is back in Tampa under the big top. Well, actually, in this case, it's not a big top, but it is back. And a big component of the show is the ringmaster. Part of the job is hosting and getting the crowd pumped up for the show. In 1998, Jonathan Lee Iverson joined Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey, becoming their first black ringmaster. He stayed with them until their closing in 2017, making him the last ringmaster in the history of that era of the show. He joins us now. He's with Circus Vargas these days in California. Jonathan, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to hear from you as well. Do you have memories from attending the circus as a kid? What is it about the circus that captivates you? Give us a call, 813-755-6562, and tell us about it. You can also join us on Florida Matters at WUSF.org. Also with us for this part of the show too, Jennifer Lemmer-Posey's Tibbles, curator of circus at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. Well, Jonathan, you've had a career in the circus for more than 25 years, which is kind of astounding when you consider the art form and where it is. But what made you want to join in the first place?
25 years, it goes by quickly. I tell you, it was just a matter of opportunity. I was well on my way to building an opera career. I just graduated from the Hart School of Music. And like any performing artist, you go out, you put yourself out there in the audition circuit. And that's what I did. And I so happened to be auditioning for a theatrical production in Wisconsin. And it so happened that the director of that theatrical production, Phil McKinley, was also directing Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. And at the time, he was on the hunt for a singing ringmaster. And I happened to fit the bill, but I had to go up against about 30 others.
Wow. So you auditioned for that role. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I went and auditioned for something else, and another door opened up, and I took the opportunity.
So you were part of the circus as it was, like the traveling circus, right? So it's still in those days, you would pack it up into a train and kind of move to the next town. That was the way it went?
Yes, that's exactly how it went.
What was that like? I mean, that must have been a kind of unusual experience that not a lot of people have had these days.
It was a great, wondrous adventure. There's no better way to see the country than on the rails. I didn't have to live out of a suitcase. It was just wonderful. It was a city without a zip code. And it was just this kind of dream life. It was rigorous, of course, a lot of hard work, but it was a lot of fun. And it just throws you into this lifelong fraternity of very few people who know what that feels like to see the country in such a way and to be a part of something that is so intrinsic to Americana, and that is Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey.
So once you were part of it, like you're like, okay, this is it. I can never go back to being an opera singer or anything else. Like, because it must be one of those experiences where once you're bitten by it, like there's probably nothing else which really comes close to it.
You're absolutely right. Once the phrase we use in circus is once the sawdust is in your veins, you'll never be the same. That was taught to me by a veteran ringmaster by the name of John Fugate many years ago. In fact, my first year in the circus, and I thought he was out of his mind. But I have found in the years since, he was right. I've gone back and I've done some opera. As you know, I worked with Opera Orlando.
Of course,
I've
yeah.
done some theater. As you know, I worked with Winter Park Playhouse, among others. And it's all exciting. Live theater anywhere is always a treat. It's always exciting. But there's a difference when you're working with people who can fly, do daring things, and talk to animals, and animals seem to talk back. It's a living dream, as Ernest Hemingway once described the circus.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Jonathan Lee Iverson. He's a ringmaster currently with Circus Vargas in California. But before that, he was with Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey for quite some time. If you have some fond memories of the circus, tell us what it is that kind of got you hooked and excited about it. What do you like about the circus? The number is 813-755-6562. You can also email floridamatters@wusf.org. Jennifer, so sort of thinking about the that notion of the sawdust in the veins, I mean, I guess that's got to come back to the fact that you had to sprinkle down sawdust for the animals, right?
That's where the phrase comes from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it is the idea that you are part of that wondrous community, as Jonathan just referenced. The sawdust is something about the blood in the sense of you as a person, but also you as part of a community, I think. And you don't shake that. It's as someone who's just on the sidelines of that community, it's such a privilege to be able to be part of it.
Did you go to circuses as a kid?
I went to Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey as a child. Yeah. I have fond memories, I'll date myself, of seeing the living unicorn.
Okay.
So that was in the 1980s. There was a wonderful living unicorn presented on Ringling Brothers. But I didn't know I was a circus fan until I started the work at the museum and met people like Jonathan. I can't tell you how much I'm excited to be in this space with him. He's an amazing representation of the kind of talent and passion of the circus community.
Let's go to the phones. We've got Jerry on the line. Jerry, what's on your mind?
Well, no, I was just mentioning that she's just a youngster. I started in '69, and my first circus I think I saw in '65, and it was the great L.G. Kelly Miller Brothers Circus, and it sat close to 10,000. It was just there for the day.
Was this in Florida?
No, this is in upstate New York, in the Finger Lakes region.
Yeah,
itty bitty town called Bath. Population 8,000.
Wow.
And yet they managed to fill that tent twice, but it was only there for the one day, and it was set up next to the school. But when I went to school that morning, there was nothing there. It's, oh gosh, we must have been scammed. Got out of school, and there was a whole city out there.
Wow.
I went and saw it, and I said, that's it. That's what I'm doing. And when I graduated, I moved down to Florida to join a flying trapeze act here in North Tampa.
Wow. So you were a trapeze artist, Jerry?
Yeah, for a while. I was a trapeze artist. I also was a motordrome rider.
What is a motordrome?
Motordrome is usually in the carnivals. It's a wall of death thrill show with motorcycles riding up on the wall.
Okay, gotcha. Wow.
Yep, had that. Then I went from that to the flying trapeze. Then I went to my own trapeze act. And then in '78, I took a 40-foot fall.
Oh, dear.
Broke a hip and an elbow. Yeah. Doesn't stop you.
Wow. So Jerry, thank you so much for your call. You're one of these people who, like Jonathan, has sawdust in the blood and I guess some scars to prove it. I really appreciate you sharing some of your circus experiences. Let's go to the phones again. We've got Heather on the line. Heather, what are you thinking?
Well, I actually work in the field of geriatrics, and I have the privilege of working with some of the retirees that were performers, and I've had some really interesting stories shared with me about their years of experience, how they, got a part of the Ringling program, and, sometimes I'll put up videos for them to show some of their performances if I can find old recordings, and just to see them light up and share and talk about it, it's a wonderful thing.
Heather, thank you so much for that call. Jonathan, I wonder what you're thinking, first of all, kind of listening to Jerry reminisce about his time as riding the Wall of Death and then as a trapeze artist and then kind of some of the memories of the older circus artists as well.
Well, Jerry is a superhero, that's the kind of artistry I'm talking about. These people who, they're moved by some kind of compulsion to want to do this, and I still marvel at people who come into the circus, especially those who become daredevils or trapeze artists, whatever it is. In that sense, it's really a fantastic and really just mysterious dynamic thing that they do, because who would dream that up? That has to be some kind of calling, and it's always been such a pleasure to be the voice of that, to introduce that. That their particular artistry causes them to really put their lives at risk for your entertainment, but there's something in them that moves them. As he said, nothing stopped him even after that 40-foot fall. I've known other artists who've been through some bumps and scrapes, and they still get back up and they do it again, probably even better, or they reimagine their lives under the big top, but they're always with the circus.
Yeah. Speaking of big tops, we've got Ray on the line. Ray, I believe you had something to do with putting these big tops together?
Yeah. Years ago in the early 60s, I was part owner of United States Tent Company, and we manufactured the big tops for Christiani Brothers and Kelly and Doc Bartok, a lot of big tops. And I was fortunate enough to, know some of those people. And it was a funny thing because I was in Chicago in the 50s, and I was in high school, and there was a guy that I know, Christiani, and he was the son of the prime owner of the Christiani Brothers Circus. And I didn't know it at the time until I got to Sarasota and was making big tops, and we were friends for a long time. I lost touch with him.
Wow.
But I thought it was an interesting comment, and it was part of what you're talking about, and a lot of good people.
Yeah.
And
Ray,
we did some. Yeah.
We're going to have to move on, but thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts there. I mean, that sort of comes back, Jennifer, to that notion of these fantastic cities that spring up in a matter of hours, and then they're broken down and packed up and put back on the rail again.
Absolutely. It's the magic of the circus. And the same show traveled all over the country. You could be in a big city and see that Kansas City set up, and then a small town in the middle of America gets the same show and the same magic because of this whole community, the tent makers, the crew, and the cast.
Yeah. Jonathan, when you're doing your work as ringmaster now, you're kind of out and about, you're talking to the audience. What is it that works to get people amped up? And I'm imagining a big part of the crowd is the kids, right?
It's the funniest thing. When we say children of all ages, we mean just that. There's nothing more exhilarating than seeing someone of a more seasoned age just forget that they're a senior and they become 6-year-olds again. Everybody becomes a kid under the big top. It's just it's the magical thing about the circus, because it takes them away. They don't come under the big top. They don't have to worry about politics. They don't have to worry about their everyday. They are really taken away. They're taken away to this fantastic, extraordinary experience that they're more than eager to enjoy. And we accommodate them with cotton candy and popcorn and sweets and
that helps.
Yeah, it helps, so it gets them going. And as the voice of the circus, of course I instigate certain things. I'm translating some of the adventure, but really it doesn't take much. I mean, people really feel welcome. They feel safe. They feel unjudged, and they are encouraged to scream and shout and clap their hands and laugh and really just immerse themselves in the experience.
Right. And I'm sure that must be quite gratifying that you can still do that in this era when everybody's kind of glued to their smartphone and looking for that instant kind of gratification. You can create something live in front of them and keep their attention. Jonathan Lee Iverson, so great to talk to you again with Circus Vargas in California. Really appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you.
Also with us this hour, Jennifer Lemmer-Posey, Tibbles Curator of Circus at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art. Thank you as well.
Thanks.
And if you want to catch some circus, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, go to Show on Earth, which debuts its 2026 season. That'll be at the Benchmark Arena on January 2nd. Well, speaking of circuses, are you ready to fly for the holiday coming up? You're packing for a flight, you've got your noise-cancelling headphones, neck pillow, eye mask, but what about your emotional support snake? What you can and can't take on a plane, that's coming up next on Florida Matters, live and local. Do stay with us.
Support for the Zest podcast comes from WUSF members and Adelaide Interiors, with a new location now open on Kennedy Boulevard, east of Habana Avenue in Tampa, offering lunch and learn events and featuring the Wellness Kitchen, where design meets well-being. Learn more at adelaide.com. Bach Tower Gardens hosts Dreamweaver Tales from the Trees. It's an all-new immersive art exhibition where the lines between nature and the mystical blur with fairies, sprites, and more. Details at bachtowergardens.org.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. In the mountains of northern New Mexico, Birdling Hot Springs offer a hint at the tremendous reserve of untapped power below.
This one's not super hot.
Oh, but it's really, that's like bath water.
It's warmer than tap water, yes.
The search for geothermal energy. Next time on Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
This holiday season, give a fact for WUSF and help protect independent journalism for everyone in our community. Your $20 a month powers the fact-based and local reporting you count on every day. Please make your gift right now at WUSF.org. Thanks.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. Now, if you've traveled by plane lately, you're probably familiar with the chaos of boarding, people trying to frantically stuff oversized bags into the bins. Some people try to bring too much when they fly. Others bring things they probably should leave behind, like human remains, really, or even snakes.
We gotta clear the snakes out of the cockpit.
Yeah, clear the snakes out of the cockpit, yeah.
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in! I'm about to open some freaking windows.
All right, so maybe a little exaggerated, but people do try to bring some animals on planes, and with us to explain what you can pack when you fly, what you can't, is Daniel Velez. He's the Florida spokesperson for the Transportation Security Administration. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And if you've got questions, maybe there's something that TSA confiscated, something you wanted to bring on a plane, let us know. 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Before we get into the kind of carry-on luggage and things that you pack in your bags to go in the hold as well, I want to ask about shoes. So since July this year, you can bring your shoes, or you keep your shoes on when you go through security. And that, shoes off policy, that went back all the way to 2006, so almost 20 years. Has it made a big difference to kind of people getting through that TSA line?
Yeah, it's made a huge difference. Secretary Noem, the DHS secretary, has done a fantastic job. All throughout the summer, we've instituted family lanes, military-only lanes, and of course, now people can keep their shoes on. It's made a big difference. People are going through a lot quicker. Our times are down significantly because of that.
So but they're a bit less cranky too.
Yeah, people are. All my friends and people that I hang out with, they're telling me that that's like one of the favorite things now about TSA is they get to keep their shoes on.
Now, when people do try to bring kind of off-the-wall things in their luggage, it does make headlines, right? A couple of those headlines from Tampa International Airport include a human skull and bones in somebody's luggage back in September. And back in 2023, a woman flying out of Tampa International had a snake in her carry-on. She told TSA it was an emotional support boa. What are some of the most unusual things you've heard people wanting to pack?
Well, those are definitely a couple of funny things that people try to get on planes. But people try to bring sometimes people will forget to take their pets out of their carrier, and they go through the X-ray. It's very dangerous for the animal. So it's always if you're going to be traveling with a pet, you definitely want to remove it. So we've seen cats, dogs, all kinds of animals that are put on the belt to go through the X-ray.
But this is animals that people are planning to bring with them. It's not like a pet that's kind of snuck into somebody's luggage.
Well, yeah, for sure. They're their own pets, and they got to make sure that they keep an eye on their pets and that they have they need to be leashed. When you take them out of the carrier, we've had cats stuck in the airport for days on end because as a cat comes out in an airport, it gets away from its owner, it's going to run. And we've had cats in the airport for days upon days, and finally people would find their cat. Or the airport would find the cat, but
okay. So when you go to the lost and found, there could be some animals kind of hanging out there too, potentially.
There could be. You never know. There could be a cat in there waiting for you to come get it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Cats kind of do their own thing anyway. I mean, who
they
knows?
do.
Maybe it's trying to get on a flight to Hawaii or something. I mean, joking aside though, what about emotional support animals? Like, are they allowed? Are there some species that you frown upon or that aren't allowed on the plane?
Yeah. So it's more up to the airlines as to what they consider an emotional support animal, not TSA. We have a general idea because we have a great partnership with the airports and the airlines. So we kind of all work together to figure out, what you can bring through, what has to go in your. Sometimes bigger animals have to be transported. They can be transported with you, but they can't be in the cabin of the aircraft. So it's mainly up to the airline as to what type of animal and the size of the animal that can travel inside the cabin of an aircraft.
Right. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Daniel Velez with TSA about what you can and what you can't bring on a plane. If you've got questions, give us a call, 813-755-6562. You can also send an email to floridamatters@wusf.org. Got an email here from Claire in Tampa who says, I tried to bring fudge to my family and it was confiscated at O'Hare Airport. What would be a reason why you might have some fudge confiscated?
So one of the first things I want to kind of squash is the fact that TSA does not confiscate anything. Anytime we have an item that's prohibited and it can't go through, that item is surrendered to us by the individual if they choose. Once we detect, say you have a knife in your backpack, once we detect the knife, we'll let you know. We'll say, hey, we found this knife. You can surrender it. You can go put it in your check bag. You can go put it in your car. You can give it to a friend, or you can surrender it to us.
Okay.
And if you don't do any of those things, you're not going through.
Right.
So 9 times out of 10, the passenger will surrender the item to us because they want to catch their flight.
They don't have a buddy on hand to take
they don't have a buddy, or they don't want to go all the way back to their car,
Sure.
or they don't want to go back and have their luggage. It does take time, but we never confiscate an item. So that item was surrendered by the individual. Now, as far as fudge, I'm not sure why that was, but here's the thing. If you can spill it, spray it, pump it, or pour it, 9 times out of 10, if it's over 3.5 ounces, it's not going to be able to go
right
in your carry-on bag. But, the majority of the things that we do end up getting from individuals who surrender their prohibited items are items that they could have packed in their check bag. There's very few items that we end up detecting that couldn't just be in a checked bag.
Right.
Now, there are a few items that can't go in either. If something looks like a grenade or any type of incendiary device or anything that's very flammable, it can't go in either bag. But people do have options.
Yeah.
And a great thing for them to do is to go to tsa.gov, click on travel, and what can I bring? And you can put anything in there from A to Z, and we'll tell you whether or not it can go in your carry-on bag or your checked bag or neither.
Yeah, there's a pretty long list there. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Daniel Velez from TSA about what you can and can't bring when you're flying. The number is 813-755-6562. If you've got a question about what you can pack and what you can put in your carry-on, you can also send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Okay, so that sort of little reminder you had there, spill, spray, pump, or what was the other thing?
Spill it, spray it, pump it, pour it.
Okay, so I've got a couple of props here. What about this? Could I bring this on a plane? This is, dry shampoo?
So no, just by looking at that is way over 3.4 ounces. So you would not be able to take that with you in your carry-on bag. That looks like it could be put in a checked bag.
Okay, so it's not the fact that it's got it's a spray thing. You could still pack that in your
You can,
in your luggage.
and you go to your local CVS or any of the stores, and they've got travel size of just about everything nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna bring something that big, you got to put it in your checked bag.
Okay. Now, got a few other props here. What about this? So this looks pretty realistic, right? But it's not.
Yeah.
A model of a human brain. Would that sort of raise some eyebrows with the TSA agents?
It might in the X-ray, but more than likely you'd be able to travel with that. That's just it's not that can't be used as a weapon of any kind, and it's not a real brain. So I think you'd be fine to travel with that. That would be no problem.
It does look pretty realistic, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. And then we got some bones here. These are obviously fake, but can you bring real bones on a plane? Or
yes, you actually can. You can bring skeletons in your checked bag or your carry-on bag.
Okay.
Now there may be a little bit of a review when we see a skeleton in a bag.
Yeah.
We may have to open it up and check to see, and then we'll listen to your explanation. But you are able to travel with bones.
Yeah. What about things like knitting needles? Could you bring a set of knitting needles on the plane?
Knitting needles are allowed, yes.
Okay.
In your carry-on bag.
Right. Now, you mentioned knives. What about guns? I mean, you often see headlines, gun shows up in somebody's carry-on, or it falls out of their pocket or something as they're going through. Like, what are the rules about firearms?
So you can travel with a firearm. You just have to do it the proper way. You have to pack it in your checked bag. It has to be declared with the airline. And the firearm case that you have must be completely locked, and the weapon cannot be loaded. So you can travel with a firearm, you just can't bring it into the cabin of an aircraft. We detect last year we detected 6,500 guns or firearms at our checkpoints all across the country.
That seems low, actually.
6,500?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was a record.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a record last year. This year, we're slightly below what we were detecting last year, but we're still on track to detect more than 6,000 firearms once again at U.S. airports.
Right. Let's go to the phones. We've got John calling in. John, what's on your mind?
Yeah. Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, John. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. Recently, I went on a trip with my elderly father, and he packed his entire medicine cabinet into his carry-on. And the issue was that the bottles were too big, and so he just put everything in Ziploc bags. And when it went through, the bags opened up, and they fell all over the counter at the TSA. And I'm just, I tried to explain to him, I don't think this is legal. So I was just wondering, what are you allowed to do as far as pills and medications?
Thanks for your call.
Yeah, thank you. So for medicines, you are able to travel with them. It depends on the size, whether or not it's a liquid. You can pack them. You can also pack them in your checked bag for sure. But if it's something you're going to need when you get on the plane, and as long as it's not a liquid, you should be good to go to travel with your pills. A good thing to do is to call TSA Cares. If you go on to tsa.gov and click on TSA Cares, we have a phone number that you can call to kind of give them a heads up and let them know that you're going to be coming through the checkpoint with an abundance of medicine, and you should be good to travel and get through with that.
Yeah. Just before we close out here, Daniel, I mean, TSA lines can be a bit stressful, but I think it's important to remember, like, they're human too, right? So a little bit of gratitude and generosity goes a long way.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was here. Secretary Noem was just here, and she awarded $10,000 bonuses to a lot of the transportation security officers who went above and beyond. And I was here talking to the media and having them talk to some of our TSOs, and they told me that throughout this 43-day shutdown, they got more thank yous than they ever have, and that was good to hear.
Yeah. We have to leave the conversation there, but Daniel Velez with Transportation Security Administration, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm going to be taking a break over the holidays, but don't worry, you'll be in good hands with WSF's Sky LeBron and Kathy Carter. So happy holidays to you. That's our show for today. Florida Matters executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producer is Emily Horace. Lily Belcher is our intern. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin, and Natalie Jaron handled the video. We'll see you again on Monday.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Caldwell Trust Company, an organization which has been navigating clients toward their financial goals since 1993, building wealth and preserving legacy.